ago, I made a mistake. I didn't even know I had done anything wrong. I had written a sketch that had the word in it.
Dave Chappelle has made his grand return, and as expected, he's back to doing what he does best, telling the truth no matter how uncomfortable it makes people. He's not sugarcoating anything, and why should he? In today's climate, where the mere hint of controversy can spark a firestorm, Chappelle is standing his ground, armed with nothing but a microphone and a sharp wit.
Hey, if you do anything wrong in your life, and I find out about it, I'm gonna try to take everything away from you. And I don't care when I find out. Could be today, tomorrow, 15, 20 years from now. If I find out, you're finished. Who's that? That's you.
Picture this. If you've done something wrong, anything at all, big or small, someday someone's going to find out, and when they do, that's it. You're finished. Doesn't matter if it happened today, tomorrow, or 20 years ago. Once you're caught, you're done. This is the essence of the cancel culture world we now live in. A world where one wrong move can wipe out an entire career. But Chappelle isn't backing down from the challenge. In his new Netflix special, The Dreamer, he takes aim at the heart of woke culture with the precision of a sniper. And Hollywood? Well, Hollywood is having a meltdown. But why? Why does Chappelle's brand of humor provoke such visceral reactions? What is it about his jokes that rattle so many cages? To understand that, we need to take a closer look at the man, his message, and the world we're living in.
Americans generally respect one another's beliefs, even if they don't share those beliefs. I know I do. I respect everybody's beliefs.
Before we dive deeper, just a quick reminder. If you're enjoying the content so far, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of our viewers enjoy the content without subscribing, but your support helps us create more of the content you love. Hit that subscribe button, and thanks so much for being here. Now, let's talk about what makes Dave Chappelle so untouchable. First off, he's uncancelable. He knows it, Hollywood knows it, and that's exactly why they fear him. Chappelle doesn't play by their rules. He never has. In an era where everyone's walking on eggshells, terrified of saying the wrong thing and offending the wrong crowd, Chappelle charges forward without hesitation. He's not just making jokes, he's making statements. His comedy isn't about avoiding landmines, it's about stepping on them and watching the sparks fly. And that's exactly what audiences love about him.
That's why I don't be coming out doing comedy all the time, because y'all is the worst motherfuckers I've ever tried to entertain in my life.
The Dreamer is no exception. It's the latest in a series of comedic masterclasses where Chappelle tackles the most controversial issues of our time with the same fearless energy he's known for. The woke left has gone into overdrive, calling it offensive, out of line, transphobic, you name it. But here's the thing, that's the exact reason people tune in. Chappelle isn't afraid to ruffle feathers. He's not trying to win over the critics or play nice with the Twitter mobs. As he once said, "That's why I don't do comedy all the time anymore. Y'all are the worst audience I've ever tried to entertain." And honestly, can you blame him? The world of comedy has changed. What was once a space for pushing boundaries and challenging societal norms has now become a minefield of acceptable topics. Everyone is so worried about offending someone that it's almost impossible to say anything real. But Chappelle isn't interested in following the herd. He's here to shatter the bubble of political correctness, and that's exactly why his fans love him.
I am not saying that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those that they got, you know what I mean?
Remember his 2021 special, The Closer? That was the special where Chappelle addressed the trans community directly, sparking protests and calls for his cancellation. The backlash was immediate, and yet Chappelle didn't budge. Netflix stood by him, refusing to take down the special despite protests outside their headquarters. And Chappelle, he didn't apologize. In fact, he doubled down.
I ain't doing trans jokes no more. You know what I'm gonna do tonight? Tonight, I'm doing all handicap jokes.
In The Dreamer, one of the most talked about moments involves a story about meeting Jim Carrey during the filming of Man on the Moon. Carrey, who was playing the eccentric comedian Andy Kaufman, stayed in character the entire time they interacted. Chappelle, observing Carrey's method acting, makes a sharp comparison. "That's how trans people make me feel."
I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this was Andy Kaufman. all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel. Do you want to meet him? And I said, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited. And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman. Yes, and Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life.
The audience erupted in laughter. It's a classic Chappelle move, taking a seemingly harmless anecdote and flipping it into a cutting commentary on a sensitive issue. The woke critics, as expected, were not amused. They labeled the joke transphobic and once again called for Chappelle's head. But here's the thing, Chappelle doesn't care. He's not interested in pleasing everyone. In his eyes, comedy is supposed to make people uncomfortable. It's supposed to challenge them, to push boundaries, and yes, to offend sometimes. That's what real comedy does. It makes you think. And if you thought that joke was controversial, wait until you hear his bit about LeBron James and the gender debate. Chappelle imagines a scenario where LeBron decides to transition. He poses the question, would LeBron stay in the NBA, or would he have to move to the WNBA where he'd score 840 points a game? The audience loses it, laughing at the absurdity of the scenario. But again, it's more than just a joke. Chappelle is taking a direct swing at the ongoing conversation around gender identity and the real-world consequences of those ideologies.
Okay, say LeBron James changed his gender. You know what I mean? Okay, can he stay in the NBA, or, because he's a woman, does he have to go to the WNBA where he will score 840 points a game?
The woke left, of course, didn't take kindly to it. They branded the joke as transphobic, demanding once again that Chappelle be cancelled. But Chappelle remains unfazed. His stance is clear. I said what I said, and I'm not apologizing for it. He's not here to appease the woke crowd. He's here to hold up a mirror to society. And whether people like it or not, that's what makes him so compelling. He's the last of a dying breed, a comedian who isn't afraid to speak his mind no matter the consequences.
I said what I said, and boy, I heard what you said. My God, how could I not?
And if his stand-up specials weren't enough, Chappelle recently made headlines again by appearing on the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, if you know anything about Joe Rogan, you can imagine the firestorm this caused. Two of the most canceled men in entertainment sitting down to discuss cancel culture and woke culture. It was like a cultural bomb going off. Rogan and Chappelle didn't hold back, tearing into the absurdity of today's hypersensitive social landscape. But here's the thing, Chappelle isn't going anywhere. His fan base is massive, and they love him precisely because he doesn't play by the rules. He's too big, too talented, and too unapologetic to be taken down by the outrage mob. In a world where everyone else is trying to say the right thing, Chappelle is out there saying what needs to be said.
They're gonna feel like, well, is something wrong with me? Or like,
yeah, there's a lot of tone-deaf folks out there that didn't get that. We're out there taking that photo in front of a private jet with a Gucci bag, smiling.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is not the time for that.
Yeah.
And let's be real. Deep down, even his critics know he's right. He's holding up a mirror to the absurdities of our culture. And whether people like what they see or not, they can't look away. Chappelle is reminding us of something we've forgotten in the age of cancel culture. Comedy isn't supposed to be safe. It's supposed to challenge, to provoke, to make us think. And sometimes it's supposed to make us uncomfortable.
They've canceled people that are more powerful than me.
So, love him or hate him, one thing's for sure. Dave Chappelle is unstoppable. He's not here to cater to the crowd, he's here to challenge the status quo, and honestly, isn't that what comedy is supposed to do? In an increasingly polarized world where political correctness seems to be the norm and the fear of offending limits free expression, Dave Chappelle stands out as an essential figure. His comedy, though controversial, reminds us that humor doesn't have to be safe or accommodating. Chappelle isn't afraid to tackle the most sensitive topics, to challenge prevailing ideas, and to laugh at the absurdities of our society. He forces us to confront what we'd rather avoid, using the power of laughter to point out contradictions and uncomfortable truths.
Lunatics trying to cancel them.
Yep.
Going after Chappelle, going after Rogan, going after all these different comedians who stood strong, stood their ground, and continued to do their art in which we need badly.
No, my brother.
But it was such a shitty article. It's just a poorly written knucklehead article.
It's again, like you say, no one can be woke enough. You know, I'm torn because I like a warrior for a good cause, but I'm really into tactics. You're not gonna nag people into behaving
Right.
in a way that's, you know, in fact, if you continue with this tone, even if you're right, you'll be very hard to hear.
Despite his critics insisting he should be canceled, Chappelle remains unstoppable. His impact goes beyond simple comedy. He reflects a society grappling with the limits of speech, identity, and free expression. Chappelle isn't here to provide easy answers or to please everyone. He's here to make us think, and that's what makes him an icon in the world of comedy.
That we're painfully desensitized because we're bombarded by so much information. And then other times I see people, it's a lot to be mad at, especially when you know so much.
To conclude, Chappelle's legacy isn't defined by his ability to stir controversy, but by his courage to speak the truth that many fear to say. In a world often caught up in censorship and self-censorship, we need more voices like his. Honest, challenging, and above all, free. Whether you agree with him or not, one thing is clear. Dave Chappelle will continue to be a relevant and influential figure in entertainment, and his legacy won't easily be erased. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more discussions on culture, comedy, and today's hottest topics. See you in the next video.